Grandma's on the floor right now. Auntie's on the floor right now.
A QoS woman, which is the Queen of Sheba, and she was the richest woman in the world, right?
She was.
For me, in order for me to check your humility, if we have an event, you have got to literally go to a Goodwill and find you something nice from the Goodwill and wear it like you got it from Neiman Marcus. Because
you must.
But no, what I'm saying is because no, right, and you're right. But that's for me to understand, to check the humility of an individual, because it's what's in you, not what's on you. So if you go around putting a lot of stock in what you driving, people do that. I've seen people go into debt because they wanted to drive a Mercedes, or they wanted to drive a Maserati or something, because they want to look successful.
That gold Bentley. Yeah.
Well, but those of them that have it, you can have it, but the humility in your value is not in what you're driving. Your value is in who you are inside. Right, yeah, that's me. Inside. And if I have a nice car, it's because I want the nice car. You know what I mean? I like the car and I want a nice car. But at my age now, I've learned if I've got $120,000 to invest in a Bentley, I'm gonna go get me 10 acres and drive a Mercedes. Wow. Because to me, I'd rather have my investment in 10 acres and a Mercedes than to be driving around in a Maserati.
Yeah, but
that 10 acres is not going to depreciate. That 10 acres is going to, matter of fact, become more valuable once I put a couple houses on it. Whereas that Maserati, it's going to depreciate. And if I paid $200,000 for it today, next year, if it could be worth 180, but it still wasn't worth the 200,000.
And you know what?
Whereas if I buy property and I paid 10,000 for the property, in the next year or two, that property gonna be worth 20,000.
Yeah, but sometimes it's not just about the land, because I owned 121 acres. Sometimes,
really?
Oh yes. Oh yes. So what I'm saying is, sometimes you just have to do something that pleasures you. And that's part
right.
That's a part of your brand. You know that. And you believe that God intended for you to be there. It's just some training that he has to do so that once you get there, you can stay there.
But you get there from the works that you do. Exactly. And that is evidence of the time that you put in. You know what I'm saying? That's evident of what you personally work for to get you to where you need to be, so that you can continue to present yourself because of what's in you and not what's on you. But I'm saying, for me, I'd rather people to learn and know the value of who they are instead of the value of what they have.
And that's
okay. Good. And if I can interject for a second, this is the importance of me having the dealer's license and the dealership. So when you said I'd rather own land and a Mercedes, you're presupposing that the Mercedes is cheaper than the Maserati. But if you are a dealer, like said person, then you know that you're actually buying a Maserati cheaper than the Mercedes. See, that's what I meant about appearances, about branding, about knowing who you are and knowing what you're doing and being a savvy shopper. Now, you can go in my closet and know that I spend almost 90% of my funds in the Goodwill. But I bet you 9 to 1, if we go in my closet and your closet, I got more name brand than probably the average person. Why? Because it's about the branding, but it doesn't necessarily have to be about the dollar. If you're thrifty, if you're savvy, if you're frugal, and if you're smart. So I have no problems telling people that I will go in a Goodwill and pick up me a Brahmin bag. You know, it's about where you shop, it's about how you shop, and it's about the way you shop. So my Maserati is probably cheaper than most of the people's Mercedes-Benz on the street right now. So it's not so much about the name, it's about the work you put in, it's about how you put it together.
Well, see now, Shanna, that's because, listen, and I'm loving you saying that. Why? Because you are a subject matter expert when it comes to that. I'm not a subject matter expert, right? So my perception for me is that I just don't get caught up in having something that looks impressive, but I don't, my knowledge of having it is not conducive to maintaining it. So like with you being a subject matter expert in that, then as you teach people about it, like me listening to you now, the mindset of me is still the same when it comes to driving it. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
But in order of the value, right? Because if you can teach them how to have that without paying what you see, you're right. Why? Because I can still have my 10 acres. But that's because you are a subject matter expert when it comes to driving nice cars. So you educate people. No, not necessarily. That's not the way it's got to be. And a lot of people do that. So when they talk to you, then they're going to learn, oh, okay, and focus more on the business part of who they are instead of trying to just be impressive with what they're driving. So you help educate in that field. You know what I mean?
Right. But now remember, as Cara was talking about packaging and branding. So if I'm coming to make a deal and I need you to invest in me and I need you to feel like you can trust me and like I have some kind of know and wherewithal of what I'm doing, then that packaging is very important. So if I'm coming up there as a real estate agent, you know, if I'm coming up there and I'm in my Maserati, or if I'm coming to you to make a deal and asking you to invest in me and I'm in my Maserati, you know what I'm saying? And I'm dressed appropriate, you know, and I'm presenting myself in such a way that I'm an expert at what it is I'm saying I'm doing, then that makes a difference. You're more apt to pay attention to me than the brother or the sister on the corner that's not looking like they know what they're talking about. Their brand is not together. Their packaging is not together. Who are you going to trust? You know, and there's nothing wrong with that. When you're presenting yourself, there's a certain way you need to present yourself and put yourself out there.
Right.
All right.
But see,
wait, Dr. Z.
That's a good teaching moment.
Dr. Z, let me get Cara in here. All right, Cara.
Yeah, no, I'll jump in. You know what I say? I love the idea, you know, what I always talk about with my clients and even with myself, right? I'll take a look at, okay, what's the overall vision of what I want to create for my life, right? And then I'm like, okay, in order to create this vision, to have the multi-million-dollar business, to have the land, to have all of these things, who do I have to become? Right. And so that's the first step when it comes to branding. And so I'll always say, who do I have to be and become? And what does that look like inside, like you said, you mentioned earlier, Dr. Lee, work ethic, right? I'm a person, she's always on time. She gets up at 5 a.m. She works out, she's reading, she's up ahead on the knowledge. So then that's the internal. Then when it comes to the physical appearance, right? How does she dress? How does she present herself? What would she drive? How would she speak, right? All of those things are branding. But what I love and what I want to share with those on the line today, you might be questioning and asking, okay, so what do I need to do in order to step into my brand? And I even echoing what Dr. D mentioned, understanding who was it that you were created to be? What kind of works were you created to do? Right? Because we see that come into life in our businesses and the things we've done, like Upsala Luxury Autos, like Women of Wealth magazine, right? And so as a person who's a CEO and founder of that, and I want to create this legacy brand and this legacy business, now, who do I have to become? And that's where you would first start with your brand. And so I love that. And then it helps to put into perspective, what is my work ethic? What do I want people to take away? And when I walk into a room, what do they know me for? Can they trust me? Like we mentioned on the call a few times, and can they trust me, maybe because of what I'm driving and what I'm wearing, but also because of the knowledge that I have. Right. And because I'm on time. And because when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And because I have integrity and because, I'm kind or whatever the case is. Right. And so I think all of those add to that branding. But first being very clear on who do I need to be? So like, and we mentioned this a couple of times, not so that I have it. And the kids say like cat, right? Because one thing I will say too, that people are good with, and this is where it gets a little sticky with the visual appearance, especially in social media today, people are good with having the image and being what it looks like. And then when you get a little closer, you realize they're never on time. You realize their work is subpar. You realize, well, you said you was going to deliver this and you didn't deliver. You realize that you said you're a woman of God. However, I see you talking about this woman and you're judging her, right? And so that's the tricky part when it comes to branding. But when you can have that outward appearance and that perception, and it also matches what's inside and the work that is being done and the work that's supposed to come out, that's when you have a winning brand. Mm-hmm.
Because it got to come from the inside out, though, to me. You got to have that first before you get that. Why? Because I might have a Maserati or a Bentley outside, but you don't know that when I'm in the room, right? And like you were saying, I can have a Bentley, but I'm always late. I can have a Bentley, but I don't ever keep my word. You know what I'm saying? And you gotta be the brand comes from you within the root,
that's a part
the
of the
seed
brand.
of who you are. That's where the brand comes from the root of who you are. And you can't, because if you got integrity from inside, then you're gonna be integral no matter what happens.
Exactly.
And so that to me, where the brand starts is who are you? Not what you're driving, not what you're wearing. Who are you? And you without just you standing free alone. Who are you? Because you are the brand.
But after a certain while, you should have that answer. You should know who you are and know where you're trying to go, know where you want to go. And, most time people make many sacrifices in their young life. And then when they get up to a point, you say, okay, enough is enough. Let me stop the struggle and let me become who I believe I am. And in order to become who I believe I am, there are certain things that I need to do, certain paths that I need to follow, certain pivots that I need to make.
Your heaven on earth.
Yes, certain changes that I have to become a